You said no, and then immediately explained why. You texted back but added 3 extra sentences you didn't need to add. You left early, but not before justifying where you were going, who you'd be with, what time you'd be back. You did something reasonable, and then spent the next few minutes making sure no one was upset about it. Most people call this being considerate. It's not. Here's what's actually happening. When you over-explain, you're not communicating. You're negotiating your right to exist in the interaction. There's a difference between explaining something once and needing someone to understand, fully, completely, with no room for doubt, before you feel safe. That second thing, that's not about communication. That's about managing the fear of what happens if they disapprove. And whether you realize it or not, that fear has a shape. It shows up in your messages, in how long you pause before saying something, in how many words you use when one sentence was enough. The question isn't whether you over-explain. The question is, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't? You cancel plans. You don't just cancel. You write a paragraph. You ask for something at work. You spend 20 seconds explaining why you deserve it before anyone has said no. Someone asks what you're up to. You give your schedule, your reasoning, your justification. Someone looks at you slightly wrong, and you immediately start filling the silence with words. This is the pattern, not the occasional explanation, not the reasonable context, the automatic part, the part that kicks in before you've even decided to speak. That automatic impulse is not random. It developed, specifically in environments where being misunderstood had consequences, where conflict felt dangerous, where approval felt like safety, where the people around you responded to your silence or your no with coldness, pressure, or punishment. You learned to explain because explanation felt protective, and now it follows you into rooms where no one is actually threatening you. Here is what the over-explanation is really saying. Underneath the words, please don't be angry with me. I need you to understand so you won't reject me. If I can just explain enough, I'll be safe. The logic makes emotional sense. If your disapproval of me is based on a misunderstanding, then more information will fix it. But here's what breaks that logic. Most of the time, the other person already understood you. They weren't confused. You just couldn't tolerate the possibility that they might disagree. That's not a communication problem. That's an approval problem. And there's a specific cost to it that most people don't see until it's already done damage. When you explain yourself repeatedly, you are training the people around you to expect justification. You are teaching them that your boundaries come with negotiations attached, that your no is a starting position, not an answer, that if they push back, wait long enough, or simply look skeptical, you will keep talking. You will eventually say something you didn't mean to say, or agree to something you didn't want to agree to, or soften a position that didn't need softening. You didn't give up because they were more powerful than you. You gave up because the silence felt unbearable. Now here's the part that's harder to hear. Certain people notice this, not consciously necessarily. But people who are socially attuned, especially people who regularly seek advantage in relationships, they learn to read the signals. They learn that when you give an unprompted explanation, you're already uncertain about your position. They learn that when you over-justify a boundary, the boundary isn't solid. They learn that a small silence from them produces a lot of words from you. And words are data. The more you explain, the more they learn about what you're afraid of, what you need from them, what will make you fold. You are, without knowing it, running a monologue that tells them exactly how to handle you. This is not a conspiracy. This is just social pattern recognition. And it happens in friendships, in relationships, in workplaces, in families. The person who pushes your boundaries isn't always calculating. But when over-explaining becomes your default, you create a social environment where pressure works on you, where being vague, distant, or slightly cold toward you produces the result they want. Not because they planned it, because you trained them. That's the part that's uncomfortable, not what they did, what you built. The deepest layer of this isn't about manipulation. It's about what you believe you're allowed to be. People who over-explain often have a quiet, unspoken belief that their existence, their choices, their needs require permission, not legally, not consciously, but emotionally. They feel, somewhere under everything, that they don't quite have the right to take up space without justifying why the space is necessary, that a boundary without an explanation is rude, that a choice without a reason is selfish, that saying no without softening it will make them unlikable, and so they explain, and explain and keep explaining, until the original point is buried under so many caveats and qualifications that even they can't find it anymore. The saddest version of this is when someone talks themselves out of something they actually needed, not because someone said no, because explaining it out loud made it feel too large, too demanding, too much. You don't fix this by becoming someone who never explains. Explanation is not the problem. Compulsive explanation is. The kind that starts before anyone has asked. The kind that continues after the question has been answered. The kind that shrinks your original position in the hope that a smaller version of it will finally be accepted. The fix is quieter than most people expect. It starts with noticing the impulse. The moment you feel the pull, to add one more sentence, to soften one more edge, to apologize for something that didn't need apologizing for. Notice it. Don't always act on it. See what happens when you say the thing and then stop talking. You will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is important. It means you're in the space where the old pattern used to live. The people who matter won't need you to fill that space with justification. And the ones who do, who only feel comfortable when you're uncertain, who pressure until you qualify, who take your silence as an invitation to push, those aren't people whose approval you were ever going to keep by talking more. You are just delaying the inevitable while slowly becoming less of yourself. A complete sentence is complete. You don't have to earn the right to finish it.